Alright guys, in this video we're going to take a look at the before and after pseudo selector, which actually allows us to insert content before or after an element. So I'm going to create a new file here called 03 underscore before underscore after .html. And let's put our boilerplate in here. Say before and after. Okay, so like I said, it allows us to put something before and after, and I'm going to give you some practical examples. So one example would be where we have a form and there's some fields that are required, and you may have seen this before, but there'll be like some kind of mark, like an asterisk or something, where the fields are actually required. So what I'm going to do is just put in a label, and we'll just say for name. And I'm going to give this a class of is-required. Okay, and then here we'll just say name. And then after the label, we'll put an input, type text. That's it. We don't need anything else. So let's save this and open it. So a good example of a practical use for this would be to put an asterisk after the label, like right here, and we could even style it. We could color it red, for instance. So let's take our is required class. So we'll say, whoops, we want dot is required, and sorry, we want to do is required, and then we want to do colon after. Okay, we want it to be after. And then in here, it takes in a property called content, which I'm going to make an asterisk. So we're just going to put, whoops, wrong character. We're going to put an asterisk in here, and let's just save that and see what happens. So notice that the asterisk actually gets put in here, and it's not in the markup. If we open up our dev tools here, and we go to the elements tab, and we take a look at the label. See, we want to look at the HTML, so I'm going to just bring this down. If you look at the label, we have a label and then input. There's no asterisk in the markup at all. It's being inserted into the view here in the browser through CSS. And then we can also style it. We should have a semicolon here, but we can style it. We could say like color red. And if I save that, it's now red. We might want to push it over a little, so we could add some padding. Dash left, we'll say like 2 pixels, and save, and it pushes it over. So that, I think that's a pretty practical use, because then you can go ahead and just give any, like let's say we had 6, 7 fields, whatever ones were required, you could simply give a class of is required, and it would automatically have this asterisk. You don't have to worry about going into your markup and actually adding an asterisk in your HTML. Okay, so that's one practical use. And just to show you, if I did before and save, it does the same thing, it just puts it before. Now, another really practical use for before is to do an overlay, an image overlay. Now, we did an overlay in the Edge Ledger project, but we didn't use before. We just kind of did it on that element. But I'm gonna give you an example of how we would do this. So I'm gonna comment this out. We don't want this element. We're gonna do kind of a little landing page here. So let's put a header, and in the header we'll do an H1. We'll say hello world. Let's do a paragraph. I'll do lorem 10, and then under that header, let's do a section. And we'll put in H3. I'll just say lorem 3, and then we'll do a paragraph, and let's do lorem 30. Okay, so we'll save that, and I'm actually going to bring this back down to 100%. I did have this zoomed in, so I'm going to bring that back down, and then let's add some core styles. So I'm going to add some styles to the body, just 'cause I want it to look somewhat decent and realistic. So let's say font family, we'll use Arial for our font, and let's give it a background. We're giving the body a background of dark and a color of white. All right, and then for the header itself, just go right here, we'll say header. I'm going to display as flex. As soon as I do that, it's gonna go horizontal, but we want the flex direction to be a column. Okay, so if I save that, it goes back to that direction, and we want to justify content center. I just want to move everything to the center. So this is stuff we've already done. We're just setting it up. So we want to align items to the center, and we want to text align to the center as well. And then let's add a height of 100 viewport height. So we'll save that. Good. The font size of the H1 I just want to increase, so I'm going to say header H1. Now we could use, if you want, you can use greater than. It doesn't really make a difference, but sometimes you'll see that people like to do that, which means that it's a direct child of header. So let's say font size for rem, and let's say margin 1 rem. And I'm just going to zero out the margin on the body as well. So I'm going to take an image, and first of all, I'm going to add it to just the header itself. And I'm going to show you what the problem with that is. So let's get an image from source.unsplash.com. And if we go down, let's see, from a collection, let's do this random search term. So if we grab this nature water random search term, and let's put a background of URL, put that in there, and we'll say no repeat, because we don't want it to repeat. We want to center on the X and Y axis, and then we want it to cover the whole, we want to show the whole image. So if I save that, we get a picture of some water here. Now, I want this is actually nice because we can read the text fine, but a lot of times with some images, you won't be able to read the text. These all seem to be pretty good. All right, so let's use this one. So let's say that we want this image to be transparent. We want to add an opacity value, and we could say like 0.4 and save, and the image is going to change, but you can see that now we can see through the image, and it makes it darker, but the text is also translucent, and we can also see through that, and it's also not readable still. So we want the text to be nice and clear, but only the background image to be faded or to be translucent. So what we need to do here, what we could do as a solution, is use before. So we're going to say header before, and we're going to take this right here, the background image and the opacity value, and pass it in there. Now when you use before and after, you want to use content. Now we're not actually inserting content in the page, so we're just going to leave this blank like that. All right, now if I save that, we can't see the image because we basically need to position it so that it's basically on top of it, or actually behind it. So we want to position this, let's say position absolute. We want to start at the top corner, so top 0, left 0. Okay, so basically right here, we want it to go 100% across, 100% height, because we want it to cover the whole thing. So let's say width 100% and height also 100%. So if we go ahead and save that, you can see that we're still having the same issue. I mean, the image is dark, but the text is not. So we're going to actually give it a z-index, and we're going to push it behind. So we're going to say -1, and let's save. And now look at the text. It's nice and bright, yet the image is still darkened. Okay. So if we wanted to change the amount of opacity, we could make it darker, even darker than this, like 0.2. 0 is going to be completely just dark. Okay. And then 1 is going to be just the full image. Anything in between, we can do like 0.5. It's kind of hard because the image keeps changing. It'd probably be a better example if it was a static image. I probably should have did that, but either way, you can see how this works. So we're adding the background image on the before pseudo selector, adding some opacity, positioning it absolute, starting it at the top left, making sure it covers the whole area, and then we're sending it back with the index of -1. That will bring the text forward. Okay, so just remember that when you're doing a showcase image, you can do it that way. All right, so that's a pretty practical use of this, and you'll see this a lot. So in the next video, we're going to start to take a look at box shadows.